Hi, I'm Dave Epstein, and welcome to this edition of Growing Wisdom. I'm here at Valenti Farms in Needham, Massachusetts. I've got Dave Valenti here, so we're going to be talking about tomatoes today. It's a great time of the year, at least when we're filming it, to plant tomatoes. And no matter when you're watching this, we're really going to teach you about some of the different varieties that are out there. So welcome, Dave, and thanks for having us here. Oh, thank you. And let's start with some of your favorite varieties.
Well, with tomatoes, there's a 1,000 varieties, and what I like to do gardening-wise is mix your cherries and your big slicing beefsteaks and your typical salad tomatoes, so you can kind of have a little bit of everything in your garden. That way you're getting tomatoes at different times, you're getting different types of tomatoes for different uses, and it just looks cooler too to put out a big plate of tomatoes with different colors on it. So we have a ton of different varieties of heirlooms here, and especially tomatoes that you can get from tiny golf ball size ones to huge 3-pound beefsteak, slice one for a hamburger and you're good type tomatoes. So color-wise, persimmon orange is really cool. It's huge. It doesn't crack too much. They're big, like a 2-pounder. Really sweet, really nice flavor, and not too long. A lot of these heirlooms, you might have 100 days of waiting in the garden, which is not such a big deal, but it's also more days to catch diseases or anything else, or bugs or anything else you may or may not have in the garden. So what we like to do is mix in some 60-day tomatoes, some 80s, and some 100s. So again, you're harvesting all the way through.
All right, so let's talk about a little bit about that. What would be your favorite early varieties? Give me one that's an heirloom and then one that's more disease resistant. And we should talk about heirlooms are not as disease resistant.
Exactly, because heirloom by definition is over 100 years old. So these hybridizing and disease packages that they're breeding into some of these newer varieties were a thing of distant future. So what I like for an early slicer, and this is our main tomato on the farm, which a lot of the farmers kind of laugh at, but it's quick and it's not huge, but it's easy and it's so tasty, is Early Girl. It's like 60 days. It produces a ton of fruit. You get fruit sets of 8 or 10 fruit on one set, which is kind of unheard of. Then I like to mix it up with sort of a medium quickness cherry, a Sun Gold, which is that nice orange golden cherry tomato, which is a sweet. You can eat them right out of the garden. They're like candy. And that's a really quick and easy one. And then for some of the longer ones, Brandywine, 100 days. But I mean, if you've ever thought of an heirloom tomato, you've thought of Brandywine. And then, like I said before, persimmon orange, or even a Bonnie Best are a little quicker. And that's a nice tomato for slicing, eating on sandwiches, on salads, with mozzarella, whatever you want to do. They're like really adaptable.
What about the most interesting color? Like if we want a tomato that's got a lot of different colors inside one tomato?
Rainbow. Just like the name sounds, you slice it open, you get orange, you get yellow, you get red, even a little green sometimes, and that's in each slice. So that's a really cool one. That's a big one as well, so you're getting a lot of production out of just that one plant.
I noticed you've got this one called Black Sea Man.
Yes. That's also a cool one. It's a Russian one. Some of the Russian tomatoes from around the Caspian Sea, they grow a lot of really neat tomatoes over there, are really flavorful and really big. And that's another one. You'll get your browns, almost your black, and your red and your pink in one slice, and it's a tasty one as well.
So Dave, we talked about heirlooms and they can get disease a little bit easier. Is there a tomato that is hybridized that has heirloom flavor?
We grow one called Beefmaster, which is, as you can assume, a beefsteak type tomato. It's big, not quite as big as an heirloom, but it isn't hybrid. It has a good resistance to the mosaic virus and things like that you'll commonly get in this area, and you produce not quite as good as of an heirloom, but really close. It's a good it's a good sub.
If you're going to give folks your tips to grow them and keep them healthy, what would be some of the things you tell people?
We always, and it's a weird thing to do as a retailer, is we always kind of encourage people to buy less, because people tend to think, oh, I'll get 3 trays and just cram them in and be good. But space to grow, space for airflow is like #1. Get air through your rows or whatever else.
How much space are we talking?
I mean, I would space some of the heirlooms 3-4 feet.
Okay.
In their cage, and let them get airflow down the rows or between the plants, because that's going to help you resist disease more than any hybridizing will at all. So that is kind of less is more. Because if you give them the space, if you cram them together, they'll produce okay. If you give them the space, they'll produce more. You're buying less plants. You're doing less pruning. You're doing less trellising. It's kind of a win-win. And it's weird, again, for a retailer to say buy less, but the end result is way better.
Okay. Yeah. What about watering and sunlight?
Full sun, as much sun as you can give them, like it's any typical vegetable. And watering with tomatoes is a fine line. They're a sensitive plant. You don't want them too dry. You don't want them too wet, because you'll get end rot and cracking and all that from stress. And it's generally, they're a higher maintenance, more sensitive crop. But the end game justifies all those means. I mean, getting that tomato in late August and popping it off, slicing it up, I mean, that's what you're paying for all that hard work. It's worth it.
Overhead watering versus drip irrigation.
You want to always try to leave the leaves dry. That'll spread disease. Dry leaves are your friend in tomatoes. So anything you can get, even if you're watering by hand, just get it down near the root system. Don't just spray the plant. Absolutely is important.
Great. Sounds good. A ton of tomatoes here. I know that over the next few weeks these will all be gone.
That's the plan. That's the hope. Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure as always.
Always good to be here. For this edition of Growing Wisdom, I'm Dave Epstein.